This is the Artist Entrepreneur Podcast. We are your hosts, Amanda Ritchie, Noah Dock, and me, Carrie Wee. We're three artists brought together by the love of circus and dance. Amanda from the world of Cirque du Soleil as an aerial soloist. Noah, our academic, and me from the commercial dance world. This is one of the greatest jobs in the world, but it comes with uncertainty. Each episode contains insight on how to pursue art-based businesses. We'll have a variety of guests and have lively weekly Discord. Tune in every week to hear our perspectives on the minefield that is the artist's way of life. How old's yours?
I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Oh, they would have fun together. I got a 6-year-old. I got a 6-year-old as well. Yeah.
Oh man, just one?
I just have the one. Yep.
I am so envious some days.
Are you guys planning on having more?
Nope, we are done.
No.
I told my wife before we got married, I was willing to have 2 and no more.
Is she also Circus?
No, my wife's an emergency medicine doctor.
Oh, so, that's kind of useful.
I hope not.
I mean, in case.
Yeah, no, I always tell my wife that if our work collides, we've got bigger issues.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Okay, listeners, this is Donovan Chandler. I met him recently because he is the owner of the Dallas Circus Center. And I just visited there this past weekend. I taught some workshops, and I had introduced myself to him because I was like, well, I'm here in San Antonio now. I was in LA for 24 years before I moved here about a year and a half ago.
That's impressive. It's a long time.
It's a long time to be there. And so now that I'm here in Texas, I wanted to meet the big players in Texas, and you are one of them. So I wanted to establish that relationship. Donovan, tell me this origin story.
Oh man, you're going to have to be more specific than that because...
No, I want to hear your story. Your circus origin story.
I got stories for days. My wife always gives me a hard time that she's like, I start off on a story and 12 tangents later, she's like, finish the story.
No, I want it. But the good thing is you're on a podcast and we're supposed to do a long form conversation. So it works out.
I'll give you the 10,000 foot view and then you can zoom in on what you want.
Awesome.
So moved around a ton as a kid. My dad worked for an engineering company that specialized in tunnels. It took him about 3 years to build a tunnel. So every 3 years we'd pick up and move to a different place to build a new tunnel. So never lived anywhere 24 years. I actually, fun fact, when I moved to Dallas, the longest I'd ever lived anywhere in my entire life was 3.5 years, and that was in high school. So I've been in Dallas for 13 years now. So this definitely takes the cake for me as far as longest I've lived somewhere.
Now, did you get used to that? Did you like that?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was every 3 years I got to start over. I got to reinvent myself. I got to shake off all of the the labels that I had gotten, and I got this fresh start. I got to start over, new school, new people. Nobody knew me. You know, I still had the same interaction with my family. So I tell my wife all the time that I think it made us grow a lot closer as a family unit because we were the constant.
And did you do this just in America, or were you all over the world?
All over the world. Yeah. So I actually went to high school in Singapore.
Oh, that changes it. That's like incredible.
But we spent the majority of my life traveling around the U.S. And then I ended up going to high school in Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah. So I loved it. It's one of my favorite parts of my childhood.
Wow. Okay. So when did Circus come into the...
Circus didn't come in until after college. So I played sports as a kid. I played everything. My dad was a semi-pro soccer player. Man, like a week before my 17th birthday, I discovered gymnastics. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is now taking everything that I've done and putting it all into one sport. And so I just started, and it was something fun for me to do on the side. It clicked for some reason. The physics, the physicality of it, I just was like, this is cool. And so I was actually able to walk onto the college gymnastics team a year later.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Like, it was one of those, like, it was junior year of high school. I took anatomy and physiology, physics one, and I discovered gymnastics all in the same, like, January, start of the semester. And so I was learning about how muscles contract joints, and in physics, rotating objects make them smaller, they rotate faster. And then I went to gymnastics and was like, oh, I can figure out a backflip. I just have to start flipping and then tuck really hard, and I can squeeze these muscles. And it was like, it clicked. I don't know why. It just made sense.
That's amazing that you had done so much sports before that point that, like, you were just an athlete already.
I tell people all the time, most people start with gymnastics and they build a really strong foundation. And then from that foundation, they can play any sport imaginable. I played every sport imaginable and then discovered gymnastics. I just kind of went backwards. Yeah. And so then when I discovered, but after college, I went back to coaching gymnastics for fun just because I enjoyed it, and then discovered Circus. And it was like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is what I want to be doing.
What was that first discovery?
At some point in college, I got roped into judging a gymnastics competition. And one of the girls that I judged the gymnastics competition with was a pro cheerleader in Baltimore. I don't remember if she was Ravens or she did the Baltimore Blast, the soccer team. But anyways, she and I kept in touch. We became really good friends. And a decade later, I ended up back in DC. And she was like, you got to come do this. She was a kindergarten teacher at the time. And she was like, all of my coworkers and all of our husbands go like one Saturday morning a month and take a flying trapeze class. And you got to come try this. And I was like, yeah, I'm game. Like, sign me up. And it was probably...
what is it? TSNY down in DC?
Yeah, it was at the Navy Yards in DC. So fun fact, that was when Brian McVicker was the general manager, part owner, and it was actually inside the tent. When TSNY first set up, they set up in Baltimore, and then they went to the Chinatown. They had an outdoor rig in Chinatown, and then they got their fabric tent building set up in the Navy Yards, and they were there for probably 5 or 6 years before they were able to move to a metal building, and then they ended up moving back down to a smaller circus tent. And long story short, I was working in that initial tent location. I worked there in DC for probably 3 years. And years later, when I was opening my own school, actually I already opened in Dallas, Brian called and said, hey, we're moving to a metal building. Do you want to buy the tent? Like TSNY.
Oh, is this what I saw the other day? This is their building.
The tent that you were in, that is actually the structure that I took my very first flying trapeze class in 18 years ago or whatever.
How did they even ship that thing to you? Like,
they didn't. So that was the funny part of the story, is that TSNY had already written it off. They were like, hey, this is a sunk cost. We already paid for this building. We're going to pay somebody to come and tear it down and haul it away for scraps. And so Brian called me and was like, hey, make us an offer. So I made them an offer, and I took a small construction team out that was basically my older brother, my dad, and an employee or two. And we went out there and we spent 6 days. We took the whole tent down. We loaded it up into like 3 different trailers and a U-Haul and drove it back to Dallas.
Well, and this thing doesn't come with a booklet.
No, we just had to figure it out.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine you putting that thing back together by scratch. Figuring it out. Putting
it back together was a little bit more organized than that, but taking it apart was literally just us renting a couple forklifts and a couple man lifts and figuring it out. But both my father's a civil engineer, and he was a PE. My older brother worked in construction for 20 years, almost 30 years now. And then when I got out of college, I was a non-degreed engineer. So we all had an engineering background to it. So going out there and actually doing the work was not terribly difficult. And then when we got back to Dallas, one of the big challenges is that when we were set up in that tent in DC and I was learning flying trapeze, I went from my knee hang class to catching double tucks and getting my first performance contracts there in DC. That was my home rig, and I stayed there until I started traveling the world performing. But one of the challenges I had in that tent was that I would literally kick the ceiling, because the tent was only 35 feet tall and the trapeze rig is 32 feet. So there was only 3 feet of space above the trapeze rig. And if you threw big enough tricks, it was literally kicking fabric and the beams.
The tent that I was under was a lot higher than that.
Yes, it was.
Because you lifted it with
shipping containers
on your structure.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. Hold on. There are so many trails that I want to go down.
I told
and
you,
I'm going to make notes.
12 tangents later, my wife's like, finish the damn story.
Let's go to the most recent experience that I had. So I walked into this place. I look at this thing and it looks like a bubble on top of some shipping containers. And I went in the next day. Trapeze class was already going on. They put me up on the silks and it was so glorious because are your silks like 35 feet?
32, yeah.
32. So I climbed up there while I was teaching just so I could do a real wheel down. I was like, oh, there's just feet and feet and feet and feet. So I was really happy, obviously.
I can just keep going.
I can just keep going. And then I find out my wheel down's not as great as I think it is, right? Because I'm like, keep on going. And it's like, oh, I thought I was faster than this. I'm not actually. So, okay, let's go to the building. And then I want to go into, because obviously it's such a big draw to have a flying trapeze rig indoors. Without the sun in your face. And then you have one on the outside of the space too.
Yeah,
and
we
then
actually
let's talk
have
about
3 trapeze rigs. So we have another one in storage.
And then let's talk about your performance. But then the last thing, which is the most important thing for this podcast, is building your business. So this is the blueprint I want to have for this conversation. And hopefully the next 30 minutes, building your business. So let's talk about this building.
Yeah. So I got the tent building from DC, and that was and it was the structure. We had to cut the fabric off. Like once you assemble the building and tension it with the fabric, you're not getting the fabric back out. So they told us straight up, just take a razor blade and cut it off, and you'll have to replace it when you're ready to put it back up. So we got the skeleton of the building out here to Dallas. And it took years to go through the permitting process because the city of Dallas just had no idea what to do with this. And it took us years to figure out where we could find a property that was zoned for us to be allowed to put this building up, because so many places.
And what is that zoning? What is it? Industrial / something?
No, it's actually, so it's mixed use. It's a mixed use 3 site. And essentially it is designed for, the most common use is like taller buildings that are commercial on the first floor and then residential above. Like if you go into one of the new developments, like the Navy Yards, actually, where they'll have like a Harris Teeter on the bottom floor, and then they have 5 floors of apartments above it, something like that. But the cool thing about ours is that a lot of the places in downtown areas require masonry siding, and it might be 50%, it might be 90%, it might be 100% masonry siding. So you have to have a brick facade on your building, which obviously doesn't work with a fabric building. So finding a place that didn't have a masonry siding requirement was the hardest part. But yeah, so we found this property. We got lucky with it. We actually, there's a whole long story with that too, but suffice to say, we got lucky with this property, and we were able to get all the permitting through. It took us about 18 months to get the city to sign off on everything between the fabric building and then also the shipping containers. So back to me kicking the ceiling. When I bought this building and brought it to Dallas, I was like, okay, I need to make this thing at least 2 feet taller, maybe 3 feet taller. And so I called one of my buddies out in Vegas, who was a rigging mentor of mine, and just said, hey, I'm trying to decide if it would be better to put little like 2-foot I-beam extensions on the bottom of each structure post, or would it be better to pour like a 2-foot concrete knee wall and put the building on top of that wall? And he was the one who came up with it. He was like, dude, just use shipping containers. They're like 8, 9, 9.5 feet tall. They're already structural. And then you can finish out the inside for bathroom and office space. And so at the time I was like, amazing. That sounds like such a great idea. In hindsight, it was probably a waste of money.
Why?
Going through all permitting hoops for finishing out a commercial space inside a shipping container just added tons and tons of time and tons of money onto the project. In hindsight, I would have been better off to have just scrapped the metal build or scrapped the tent building and put a metal building up and just put up a bigger metal building and built all the office and bathroom space on the inside. It would have been faster and it would have been about the same cost. And I could temperature control it. Because one of the biggest challenges with our tent is that we can't air condition it because the fabric
it'll just go away.
The fabric has an R value of like 2. So,
but the thing is, there's no way for you to have known how long it was going to take when you first started, right?
That's why I said in hindsight. At the time, I was like, this is great. I already own a $500,000 building, and I can just throw it on top of some shipping containers, and it adds 1,000 square feet to our building footprint. And it was actually really nice. In DC, all the bathrooms and everything were inside the tent, which cut into your usable area a lot. So having the shipping containers outside of the tent gave us a lot more usable space inside the gym area.
Okay. So it would have been lower, though. You wouldn't have had the height that you have if you built a building from scratch, though. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I would have built it the same height. So what we ended up doing,
would have.
Yeah. So right now we have a 45-foot peak. The peak of our tent is at 45 feet, which is actually kind of cool. If you decide you want to come out for one of our showcase performances, we take the net down and we have a pulley point in the center of the building.
Nice.
So
I'll be performing on a pulley point?
Yeah, it's a motorized pulley point too. So all of our aerial performances are on a 45-foot point in the center of the building for our showcases.
I already agreed to this, Donovan, I think.
I know,
we already said December 5th. Yeah, you don't have to sell it to me, but now I'm in. I think I'm going to do an aerial chains act, apparently up in actual air because they have a motorized point. Okay, so this 18 months that you were in, like, were you losing money during this entire time, or was it one of these things that not quite yet because you were still working on other things and that wasn't your job yet?
So we opened in Dallas in the summer of 2013, and we ran from 2013 through the fall of 2020 outdoors seasonal. So that trapeze rig that you saw outside, that was our only trapeze rig for 7 years. And we were running from February to November every year, and we'd take November, December, January off. And the team would scatter, go home, go visit, go travel, whatever. And then we'd come back in February and open back up for the season. So we kept the outdoor rig running while I was going through the permitting process. And actually so we got permission to start construction on, it was like December 21st or something of 2019. It was about 3 weeks after my son was born. So you can imagine how happy my wife was when we had
not busy or anything.
We had a 3-week-old, and I finally got permission to start construction, and she was like, "Are you kidding me?" But and then 10 weeks later, COVID shut everything down. So I tell people all the time that building this building was my COVID project, because while everything else was shut down, I got to go socially isolate on this construction site while I was.
I mean, it kind of worked out for you then.
Yeah, it was great. It gave me something to do, and we ended up, because we were in Texas and we were running an outdoor flying trapeze rig, we were still able to run some outdoor flying trapeze classes at our outdoor location. Yeah. We just had to limit the number and all that fun stuff, keep distance. But so we were able to keep the outdoor rig running a little bit. And then the construction project was what allowed me to continue paying some of my salaried staff, because I was like, hey, instead of teaching classes, come help me on the construction site. You'll still get your hours. So it ended up working out pretty well.
Flying trapeze is this element of this growing appeal for, what's the word I like to use? Commercial circus.
Okay.
There's not a lot of places that have it. Like, I have students, the area is small, we're a room with 6 points. Students of mine, hey, Carrie, I'm not in this weekend. I'm driving up to Dallas to take trapeze class. And I'm like, oh my God, have fun, right? So you're obviously in this niche. Tell me about running this business in flying trapeze, because it's so different than, I don't know, like 90% of the studios that are in America,
I mean, it's a passion project, right? Just like most entrepreneurs that you talk to, they're going to find something they're passionate about. they're going to find something that they're an expert in, and then they're going to figure out a way to make a living doing it. I mean, that's really, really what it comes down to. So flying trapeze, just like anything else, is something that you figure out that you're passionate. If you're good enough to become an expert at it, then you figure out a way to make a living out of it. The passion's pretty easy because flying trapeze is awesome. Pretty much everybody loves flying trapeze. It's easy to be passionate about that.
I was so distracted, by the way, when I was teaching. I just find myself staring at you guys. I'm like, oh my God, Carrie, you're teaching right now. But it's like hard not to, right? Because you guys are doing some amazing shit. Yeah, like hello. Yeah. Is it like you built it and they come? Is it hard to market yourself?
Yes and no. There is a little bit of build it and they will come. The schools that last have to have something more than that. And this is going to sound horrible, and I hope that any other flying trapeze people who are listening to this aren't offended by this, but professionalism is a really big issue in the flying trapeze industry because so many people have that like build it and they will come. So they put a trapeze rig in their backyard and there's just absolutely no professionalism associated with it. And then they can't figure out why they can't get customers.
The teachers actually know what they're doing.
The teachers know what they're doing, but it goes further than that, right? It goes to rig maintenance. It goes to having a curriculum. It goes to staff training. It goes to judgment decisions on, when you're dealing with other people's safety, there's a lot of judgment that goes into it, and passing that judgment on to your staff so that everybody is making reasonable judgment decisions. So you don't have some staff member who comes in and they're like, no, you're completely safe doing that stupid thing. And then you have somebody bounce out of the net and you're like, well, no shit, dumbass. Like, there's no reason that person should have been doing that. So,
right.
And a lot of the rigs have problems with that. A lot of rigs have where either the person in charge isn't setting a standard that can be followed, across the board, or there just isn't a standard at all. It doesn't exist. And I will say some of the rig owners are pretty transparent about that. There's one rig that comes to mind that's in a guy's backyard, and he straight up says, like, I am not a professional. I bought a trapeze rig because I thought it was cool, and I will charge you a very small amount of money and you can come play on it with me. But I'm not a professional. I'm not going to teach you how. I will do my best to keep you safe, but you're on your own. There are other places that are collectives where it's like 8 or 10 people get together and buy a trapeze rig, but it's the same thing. They're like, we freely admit we are not coaches. We don't know what we're doing. We just bought a trapeze rig and we're playing on it.
Okay, that's a really good segue to talk about you. Okay, tell me about your performance life and what you got from it.
The biggest thing I got out of my performance life is that most of the professionals don't know what they're doing.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, like growing up at TSNY, TSNY was the hallmark of professionalism. They were like, hey, we are going to take this thing that is cool and novel, and we're going to make it completely corporate. Like, we're going to take all of the fun out of it, and we're going to make everything standardized. And
make sure that we can't get
exactly
get sued for this and that.
One of the and no shade to TSNY, like Dave and Ann and Jonathan, the founders of it, they did a phenomenal thing in the sense that they brought recreational flying trapeze to the United States. And in doing so, they grew to the point that they were expanding locations faster than they could implement staffing quality control. So,
it's also very specific. I mean, it can't be that easy to get your staff built up.
Staffing is the hardest part of a flying trapeze rig, 100%.
Okay.
Like, absolutely no questions asked. That's the hardest part. But TSNY, what they basically did was they said, hey, instead of training all of our staff so that we know that each individual is good enough to do anything we want them to do, we are just going to limit everybody's judgment ability so that no one person can make a mistake. So in order for a student to do something, they had to get 5 coaches to sign off on it.
To do something like a trick or?
Sure. Or a catch or trampoline skill, or if they're like, hey, I want to take my swing out of lines. It's like, okay, well, TSNY created a logbook, and there are 32 steps that you have to take. You have to get signed off on 12 trampoline skills. You have to get 3 senior
Ah.
staff members to sign off on each of these things. And the point of it was to distribute liability enough so that you didn't have any one staff member who was making an error in judgment that had any real influence. Which,
Okay, so we're taking the magic out completely.
exactly. And it corporatized this magical thing. And I think correct me. I mean, they will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Jonathan recognized it early on, which is one of the reasons that he got out. Is he felt like it was just becoming too corporate and it wasn't his passion anymore. And I think by the time Dave and Ann were done, I think they were very proud of what they built, and I think they should have been. But I think they also kind of realized that, like, hey, we might have gone too far with this. But so anyways, going from that environment out into the world where you have, fourth generation performers who opened their own trapeze school, or you have, and it's just no holds barred. It's one person who says, yeah, that looks good to me. And there was no curriculum. And some of these fourth generation performers are amazing performers. Some of them are decent coaches too. But it really opened my eyes to how going from the super, super controlled environment to the regular world where there was just no holds barred. It was just free for all. And that was really my inspiration for opening my own school. It was like, hey, there's a huge middle ground here, guys. Like we can find this area where there's some common sense, safety things in place, but it doesn't have to be so restricted that it takes the magic out of it. So that was really when I decided to open my own school. It was after working for a couple. There was one trapeze rig in particular that was he legitimately had somebody go to the hospital weekly, and it was like this is not professional. There's better ways to do this. And once we opened in Dallas, that was kind of my goal was let's get a staff training protocol in place so that the staff are all trained to the extent that they can make reasonable judgment decisions. And then I think back to Elon Musk, think what you want of him politically or anything else. He's got some really good business quotes. And one of them was that if you find yourself making stupid rules as a business owner, find better staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because it's one follows the other.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like, if you get to the point where you're like, hey, you're not allowed to do this thing. It's like, wait a minute, let's just train our staff better. Then we don't have to make this stupid company policy. Just teach them how to use better judgment, teach them why we do the thing the way we want it done, train them better so that we can trust them to make decisions on their own. And so that's really what my school is kind of built on. It's all about hiring quality staff and then training that staff to the point that they can operate autonomously. And I know that their quality of teaching is going to be high enough that I don't have to question their methods.
Okay, so Dallas is big.
It's
a big city, right?
Not quite as big as San Antonio, I think. Maybe DFW, I think.
Yes, maybe. San Antonio is apparently the 7th largest city in America, which I did not know before I moved here. It's not.
Yeah, I think it's funny if you look at just Dallas, it's actually not that big, but DFW is huge.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is a big city, but when it comes to circus town, it's not Vegas. It's not LA. It's not Denver. It's not Boulder. It's not, I mean, those are growing. It's not New York City. New York City doesn't really have a huge community, actually. Why Dallas, sir?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Void in the market.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about picking.
Yeah, no, it was legitimately figuring out where I wanted to live and where I wanted to work. And, I had traveled the country and traveled the world enough. I knew I preferred to live in southern states. I liked the hospitality here better. And then it was looking at the largest metroplexes in the country that didn't have a flying trapeze school. And DFW is what, third largest metroplex in the country, and behind LA and New York. And LA had 4 trapeze schools, and New York had 3, and DFW had 0. And it was like, this is an easy decision.
Had you already met your wife by then?
No, we met here.
Oh, so the whole world happened when you moved here. So you were like, were you like done performing by that point?
No, I was still on the fence. So I only performed like full time for maybe 2 years after TSNY. I left, and my first contract was at an amusement park in Dubai, and I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing contract. And then I came back and bounced around the US for a while. I did some events in Philadelphia, in upstate New York, and then I actually went back to TSNY. Jonathan asked me to come back and help. They needed an out of lines catcher for a showcase in Boston. And then I got there, and it was like the day I arrived, the general manager had put in her notice. So I ended up being the ad hoc AGM while I was there, as the AGM stepped up to take over the general manager role. And at that was around the time that I was like, all right, I'm getting ready to open my own school anyway. So I was in Boston helping manage that school while I was putting all of the pieces in place to open my school in Dallas.
Wow. Okay. If there is a pie and you sliced it into all the different... Good answer. If you were to slice it into, as a business owner, what you were doing with your time, how would you slice it?
I'm not going to like this answer.
Is it marketing like 99%? Like, what's going on?
No, I do not market enough. I don't like social media. I don't enjoy it. I don't really enjoy consuming. The older I get, the more I realize how much of a time suck social media is. So I really don't enjoy social media, which means that I kind of suck at utilizing it for the marketing purposes. I recognize its value as a business owner. I just hate that part of the job. I wear a lot of hats. There are a lot of slices of this pie. Yeah, it really just depends on the season. And as I was saying, the hardest part of my job, bar none, is staffing. Is finding the right people, putting the right people in the right places. They talk about getting the right people on the bus and then figuring out what seat to put them in. If I have a quality office manager, then I get to step back from the day-to-day office operations, and I can focus more on other aspects. If I have a really competent lines puller who's teaching all of the regular classes, then I can kind of step away from that aspect. If I have a really competent facility maintenance person, then I can step away from the rigging aspect. But if my facility maintenance guy goes, then I have to be the one doing the rigging inspections and the rigging maintenance. And if my office manager leaves, then I have to be the one answering the phone, answering the emails, and booking private parties. If my lines puller takes off for a summer camp or whatever, then I have to go back to teaching the flying trapeze classes. So it really just depends on the season.
Who's in?
Yeah.
For example, in the month of May that's coming, do you have your staff?
Yes. So for the month of May, I'm actually quite set, but I've got 2 key players leaving at the end of May. I've got 1 key player leaving at the end of April. Actually, next week, my facility maintenance guy is leaving, and my CrossFit coach is leaving. So in May, I have to go back to coaching all of my CrossFit classes again. We bought a CrossFit gym.
You're on the schedule. Donovan is teaching blah, 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 Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever it is.
Yep.
Okay.
So we bought a CrossFit gym. My wife was a big CrossFit athlete. So we bought a CrossFit gym 3 years ago.
Oh, so this is you have 2 businesses?
So we operate the CrossFit gym out of the Circus tent as a space utilization thing. So CrossFit runs mornings and afternoons. Circus runs evenings and weekends.
Smart.
Now they can run at the same time, but we try to let the CrossFit guys have the CrossFit gym because they want to crank the music and drop weights and all that. And the aerialists don't necessarily like that. So we do mornings and early evenings as CrossFit, and then later evenings and weekends are pretty much exclusively Circus. But yes, so we own a CrossFit gym. That's CrossFit 3 Rings, and that operates out of Dallas Circus Center.
Got it.
So yeah, next week my CrossFit coach is leaving, so I'm going to take over coaching 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 3 or 4
Oh,
hours a
that's a
day,
lot.
Monday through Friday. Yeah. And then at the end of May, my lines puller and one of my catchers is leaving to go to summer camp. So for June, July, and August, I'm going to be short staffed and I'm going to be teaching. I'm hoping to hire a new CrossFit coach, but if I can't, I'm going to be teaching CrossFit mornings and afternoons and then flying trapeze evenings and weekends for June, July, and August. And that's when we have our kids' summer camp going on as well. Now, I do have a lines puller to pull for the kids' summer camps, so I won't have to be there all day, every day.
Okay. And if you, for example, my owner has the same problem, Darren Minkin. If you're in a bigger city, you'd have so many options for staffing, but then you would be competing with all the players in the space. So it's definitely a better business, but man, is it hard. That's what I'm coming to the point, because like,
one thing I will say with flying trapeze is that there really, I mean, there used to be 3 or 4 flying trapeze rigs in LA, and there used to be 3 or 4 in New York City. There used to be 2 in Seattle. There used to be 2 in San Francisco. There really aren't any others. Like there's one in Chicago, the one in Boston closed. So sometimes there's one in Miami. Sometimes there's one in Phoenix. But if you look at like indoor flying trapeze rigs, there's only like 6 in the country. So,
I mean, do you have a lot of people like traveling all over the world to come, like people from far?
we get applications pretty regularly from people all over the country, including Australia, who want to come and work for us. The challenge is finding people who are going to fit with our culture, or finding people that can get their visas, right? And there are a lot of options out there for flying trapeze instructors that don't necessarily mesh with the way the professionalism that I require.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking about LA.
No, you're good. Oh yeah, I was just saying that there used to be kind of hotspots, but at one point there were 3 or 4 schools in LA. There's now only one, and they just lost their space on the pier and they moved into another city, into another park. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There used to be 2 in San Francisco. The one in Oakland closed. There used to be 2 in Seattle. Emerald City closed. Sanka bought it.
That's
there used to be 3 in New York. I'm pretty sure all 3. Oh no, there's the formerly known as TSNY is still operational, but the other 2 have closed. DC is still hanging on. But if you look at like indoor flying trapeze rigs, you have Seattle. There's one in like Rochester, I think. Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul, New York City, DC. Did I say Chicago? And us.
No, you did not.
Yeah. So there's 6 flying trapeze rigs that I can think of off the top of my head that are indoors in the whole country.
Yeah.
So there's not really like this big, I would say the biggest regions are probably New York and Chicago right now, and Seattle. Those are probably the 3, but we're probably in 4th place. So I don't know that like being in a bigger city, I
would, okay.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the solution. No,
okay.
I think the solution is just, we've played with this for a long time. Do we lower our professionalism standards so the staffing is less of an issue? Or do we focus on hiring local people and training them, teaching them to teach flying trapeze so that we don't have to try and get somebody who's coming from a different environment and trying to force them into our system? And that's just a constant battle amongst the manager staff is, do we hire people from out of town and know that there's going to be some friction? Do we hire people off the street who know nothing and teach them? But hiring somebody, it takes 3 to 5 weeks to teach somebody how to work board. It normally takes somebody about 3 months to learn how to catch. And it normally takes anywhere from 1 to 3 years to learn how to pull lines. So it's a huge investment in personnel to hire somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and if they don't mesh and then you've already onboarded them for months,
But it's the same thing if we hire somebody from out of town.
Yeah.
They're normally coming down on a 3 to 6 month contract. And if they don't mesh, do you terminate the contract? Do you let them stick it out? Do you, well, how do you manage that?
Well, and there's also the skill set of not dying from heat and humidity like I almost did. And I realized that it was actually a cold day that day, but it was sweating. I was sweating. Okay. Do you lose creativity when you're running your business? How do you keep your creativity as an artist while you're doing all this stuff? Talk to me about that.
I didn't have creativity to begin with, so I didn't have anything
No, you had to have.
No, I am. My brain is all science and math. I was a physics major in college, and I look at something and I figure out how it works, and I figure out how to build it, and it's all logic for me. I have very little creativity, and it's funny because I'm looking at the other window on my computer screen right now is ChatGPT, because I'm trying to figure out like costumes and whatnot for this show coming up in May. And I'm like, I just ChatGPT that shit. Like, hey, give me 20 options and I'll pick from those.
I agree. I don't Dara asked me to write like a blurb to explain my number. We have a recital coming up on Friday, which, by the way, I should have been in San Antonio when I was in Dallas, but I told her, I was like, look, I gotta go. Like, I scheduled this a long time ago. But no matter what, if you are telling people what to do in the air, there's a certain choreography of it.
Yeah, but for me, it's logistics, right? Like, hey, if you squeeze that muscle, this thing's going to happen, and that's not the desired result. And the desired result is this, so you need to squeeze this muscle in order for that to happen. So for me,
are you not thinking about the look of the act, though? Of course you are.
No, very little.
Oh my God, you and I have very different brains, because you know what I'm saying?
No, I am very much like function over form. Like, can you do the thing I'm asking you to do? Cool. Like, does it look good? Nah, but you can do it.
If you have advice out there for a young trapeze artist, what would it be?
Find something more profitable.
Besides, don't do it, because
No. The biggest part of my job, like the hat that I am most proud of as a business owner is mentor to my staff. That's the thing that I take the most pride in. At this point, we've created a pretty good culture of mentorship at the gym, where the people who have been around longer kind of inherit or intuitively take people under their wing and teach them. And so this is actually a conversation that I have with young aspiring trapeze artists often. And essentially what I tell people is you have to recognize that flying trapeze is not the most profitable thing in the world. If you want to make money, there are way easier ways to do it. And don't go into this with the mentality that if I just get good enough, I'm going to make a ton of money, because chances are that's not going to happen. And even if you do get good enough, even the very best of the best are making a starting salary for a computer programmer, or for, you could go take a 6-month online course and you could have a starting salary better than the best flying trapeze artist in the world. It's just not. It's not built to be a profitable industry. But so if you take money out of the equation, then recognize that you're going to spend the first couple of years learning how to do the thing that you want to do. And then you're going to take some crappy jobs that are going to travel you to places you don't want to go. And you're going to spend more time setting up the tent and driving than you are going to spend performing. And that's part of the process. That's part of learning how to do this thing. And while it sucks in the moment, in 20 years, those are going to be the stories you're telling everyone. Those are going to be the fun parts. And don't rush through those moments trying to get to something better. Recognize that you're doing what you wanted to do, and enjoy it. And it's a little bit like parenthood, right? Like, don't rush through the screaming toddler phase. don't rush through the toddler tantrums because you're waiting for them to get old enough to have a meaningful conversation, right? Because you're going to look back on those moments and be like, man, I really miss when she was 2 years old and wandered through the house naked. So I think that's my biggest advice to a trapeze artist, is that recognize that every part of the journey is a season, and appreciate the season that you're in.
I mean, flying trapeze is arguably the most old school circus like role out there. And me being in the aerial side of like aerial silks, aerial hoop, aerial hammock, I come across, sorry students, a bunch of divas who want to be the star. And you're like the star of, they want to be a soloist. But the thing is, the old school circus world, you're putting up the tent yourself. You're a part of that crew. You're not just the soloist who gets to prance out of their, little dressing room and be the star of the show. I feel like there are more jobs for those people than there are for the type of people that I'm training.
Flying trapeze is like old school flying trapeze or old school circus. But, the thing that boggles my mind is that aerials is more profitable as a business owner. Like, absolutely no questions asked. Because of that, well, the staffing is cheaper, right? You don't have to have 3 people in every class. You can run as many classes as you want. You only need to have one coach. You can schedule the classes when that coach is available. You don't have to try and coordinate schedules, and you don't have to limit the number of hours available based on payroll. So flying trapeze is a lot more challenging from a logistics standpoint to own that business. But because of that, and also all the building requirements, the ceiling height requirements, the square footage, the footprint requirements, with aerial studios, you can set up in a tiny little space with only 6 points, or you can set up in a much bigger space with 18 points. So you can kind of scale your space as your client base grows. You can't really do that with flying trapeze. You have a footprint. You need basically 4,000 square feet, and it's got to be at least 35 feet tall. And that's just kind of the minimum. So it's a lot harder. There's a lot more barrier to entry there. But because of that, there are several aerial studios in every city in the country. But that means that there are several studios worth of aerial students in every city in the country. So your student population is greater, your instructor population is greater, there are more insurance options available. Like, everything about aerials is easier from a business ownership standpoint than flying trapeze is.
Yeah, but when it comes to performance, there's more jobs, no?
No, there are fewer performers. You are competing against fewer people, but it's not necessarily that there are more jobs. Like, if you think about how many circus tents are big enough to have a flying trapeze rig, there aren't that many.
I mean, but every Cirque du Soleil Vegas show has an element of flying trapeze. I feel
only
like
Mystère.
No, I'm wrong.
Yeah, only Mystère.
No, oh as well, right? Because they have that big boat.
So that's more like Russian swing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So Mystère is the only Cirque show right now, I think, that has flying trapeze in the world. There might be, I don't think Alegria is, I don't know if they're still running their flying trapeze act or not, but.
I mean, I made an assumption. I was wrong about that.
Yeah, no, I think, I may be wrong about this as well, but I think Mystère is the only Cirque show in the world right now that's doing flying trapeze. And then, like, they're really, like, I can count on one hand the number of flying trapeze performance. I mean, you have Circus Vargas, who's currently in Germany. They're normally on the West Coast. Circus Vasquez, they don't have a flying trapeze act this year. Big Apple
Circus
Circus.
Vasquez is in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're Houston based. And they about once every 3 or 4 years, they have a fly act. They had one this year, the season that just finished. One of my old catchers, Jason English, was catching that show. But Ringling has a fly act right now. Lanuba in Orlando used to have it, but they closed Lanuba and they got Drawn to Life that doesn't have flying trapeze. So really there aren't that many flying trapeze acts in the world right now where you can just go get a job. But there are probably only 200 flying trapeze performers in the world. So you're not competing against the same volume of people for the same number of spots.
Yeah, it's like niche in a niche.
Yep. Well, one of my catchers, David Pache is in Japan right now catching with Pop Circus, and I've got a new catcher here who's getting good. And I would say in a year or so, I'm going to start sending him out for auditions to catch places. But there's really only 4 or 5 places I can send him where he can get the experience that he needs to start putting his name on as a professional catcher. There just aren't that many spots available, but he's probably only competing against 10 other people in the world for those spots.
Yeah, I mean, you must be just like in this small niche. There's not a lot of people who know what everything is and the industry. You're like one of those guys. Yeah.
Flying trapeze is definitely a niche within a niche. Like circus performing is a pretty small community to begin with, and flying trapeze is just a tiny percentage of that.
Yeah, and you were telling me your silks, your lyra, how much of that makes up your business? The traditional, like the aerial studio stuff.
My goal is for flying trapeze, aerials, and CrossFit to all make up about a third of my business. That is my ideal. If I could, because that's the constant revenue stream, right? Like if all of them are making up a third of my business, then if any one of them is having a slow
each one makes a third.
Yeah, that's my goal. Now, I would say right now, CrossFit is slow. So CrossFit's probably only doing 10% of our annual revenue right now. Circus is Trapeze is probably doing 40%, and aerials is probably doing 20%. And then the other 10% is coming from various other performance events, equipment sales, rigging installation, stuff like that.
Is CrossFit trending right now in the world?
No, it's actually trending down.
Okay.
It's High Rocks is kind of taken over right now as the new like trendy fitness thing, and
I just
CrossFit.
Heard about High Rocks.
Mm-hmm. It's basically
never heard of it before.
It's basically just CrossFit, but you have to run a kilometer between every activity. It's literally that's what it is. The biggest problem between CrossFit and High Rocks is that CrossFit is all about constant variance. Like if you're constantly doing something different, then your body will keep growing and adapting. And High Rocks is a race. So it is like you're going to do this skill and then run a kilometer, and then you're going to do that skill and run a kilometer, and then you're going to do this skill and run a kilometer. And those skills don't change. So you can study for the test, if that makes sense. If you're like, okay, I know I have to do wall balls, so I'm just going to practice wall balls like crazy to get really good at that one thing. Whereas CrossFit, you can't do that. CrossFit is all about like being the best well-rounded athlete imaginable, which is the reason when I was performing flying trapeze, I would use CrossFit as my supplemental training, my injury prevention training, because CrossFit was the best whole body and explosive power workout that I could find. And I needed that whole body injury prevention, and I needed that explosive power for my flying trapeze performance. So that's how I got into CrossFit, and that's actually what ended up introducing me to my wife. Is that we met on a dating app, and I was like, oh, she's a high level CrossFit person here in Dallas. Like, yeah, I'll go on a date with her.
You're like,
she can lift more than me. Let's go.
Oh my God. Okay, Donovan, would you walk in the shoes of TSNY and franchise ever?
No, and it's not because I think that what they did was wrong. It's because I saw how emotionally challenging it was on the owners. And that was actually, okay. So when I opened my company, I called Jonathan Conant and I called Dave Brown and I said, hey, I'm I'm going to open my own school. Do you have any advice for me? And both of them, independent of each other, said, open one location, do it well, hire good staff, don't expand, just do one location and do it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the ultimate goal of this business?
My exit strategy?
No, but I mean, I would imagine like those pieces are all falling into place for the income, and that your staffing is full and boisterous and you have robustness and you can take a vacation once in a while.
Yeah. So we've gotten to that point a couple times. I think my goal is, my personal goal, I would like to see somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 of profit. That would be amazing. Like if I can get to the point where I was like, yes, I'm making enough that I'm making an entry-level salary in a normal job. My old engineering company, if I could replace my entry-level salary there, that's my like revenue. I think revenue-wise, I'd love to see us break $1 million a year in revenue. I think that's coming in the next couple of years. I think we're probably going to hit 7 or 750 this year, and I think we could hit $1 million in the next 2 or 3 years.
You're talking about gross
top line revenue, yeah.
So, for example, I worked for Womack and Bowman in Los Angeles for 9 years as one of their staff members, and Rachel and Brett are very close to me. For a long time, their digital sales, their online courses, all of that stuff grossed way more than their in-person. And now it's flipped. Is there an element that you can digitize, or is that not really the situation anymore? I think two things have happened. Since COVID, people want in-person a lot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine any digitization of your business to make any sense in the future?
Yes and no. It's not my passion. So it's not going to be the thing that I pursue with the same fervor as in person. We actually are launching an app in about 2 to 3 months. It's going to be on the App Store.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be, it's essentially a flying trapeze logbook, diary, trick chart. Like if you look at right now, there's TSNY's logbook, which is just that. It's a logbook of what tricks you worked on what days. And then there's a trick database on the website that's TrapezeNet that kind of goes through, but it's all, it's like Wikipedia where it's, user updated videos and stuff where they can go through and explain tricks and whatever. And we're basically going to build a DCC curated trick database. So we're going to say, okay, these are the tricks that we teach. These are the ways that these are the things, the components that we look for. These are the videos that we've curated of like how-to videos on to do this thing. So you're not just randomly Googling how to do this obscure trick and you're looking at students in Indonesia attempting it. This is actually a curated video from DCC on that this trick should be done. And then it will also have a logbook diary function as well. But the reason I say yes and no is because we are intentionally keeping that app as cheap as humanly possible to just cover its own costs, because we want it to be as widely available as possible. I would like to see that app, implemented nationwide across all schools. And the best way for us to do that is to keep the cost just above our operating cost.
And how long have you been working on this project?
Relatively new. I would say we started on it probably 2 or 3 months ago. One of my instructors, so Taylor, the aerial manager, is a professional coder in her day job. And so she's the one who's actually building the app. But yeah, we actually just went through alpha testing the last couple of weeks, and she's implementing all the changes before beta testing. And then I think we're going to go ahead and put it on the Android Play Store, and we're hoping the Apple App Store in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, so that's an element that's scalable for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I would say my passion is in person. My passion, where I would like to see the business go, is I would like to see the business hit $1 million in revenue, profit 6 figures, and find somebody who is capable of taking over from me and continuing the project. I want to find a mentee, for lack of a better term, and it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody younger. I'm looking at like a retiring Cirque du Soleil catcher or something who is like, hey, I'm ready to settle down and I'm willing to move to Dallas and take over running the school and keep it going in the same direction or a similar direction. So I think that's kind of that's where I see success, is like, I've built this thing to the point that somebody else wants to buy it and wants to come in and continue doing all the work that I've already done.
With what you have in place right now, could it make that much money if all the classes were full?
Easily. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, like I said, I think, and I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but I want to say we're on track to hit about 700,000 this year, something like that.
Okay.
And so if I had a few more flying trapeze staff and I could offer, so far this year, our flying trapeze classes have been sold out weeks in advance. We're running at, 10-person classes with 8 people on the waiting list, almost all of our classes. So if I had more staff, or if I had unlimited time in my day, we could be running a lot more classes right now.
Got it. So you'd put more on the schedule.
Exactly. More hours of optimization, or more hours of utilization.
Yeah, you got a great situation over there, minus some AC.
I know. Well, and we're working on that too. I've got my engineer in California has tentatively approved us taking down the tent portion of the building and putting an insulated metal building in its place that we could then,
like, right on top of your structure.
It would use the same structure. We would literally take the fabric off and we would metal side our existing structure. So the engineer has already tentatively approved it, and he is in the process of drawing up the initial drawings to take to the city of Dallas to see what permitting would be required. But we have enough money in the bank to do the project, and now we just have to figure out how feasible it's going to be from a permitting perspective. But that could be as early as this year, as early as this fall.
How much do you think the lack of AC affects your business? Like, do you feel like people are gonna, the people I met are obsessed.
Sure.
They're coming regardless. But maybe people who are starting out, it's gonna be a little bit more barrier to entry.
I would say that our lack of AC is on par with our staffing as far as the bottleneck to our business. Those are the two things.
Okay. All right.
If I had unlimited flying trapeze staff, we could add 30% to my annual revenue. If I had AC, we could add 30% to my annual revenue.
Got it. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
So if we can solve those two problems, then we're talking about hitting all those goals that I was just talking about.
Wow. Part of the digitization of my business is the podcast, obviously. Like, I've obviously chosen that route. I have 3 podcasts, Donovan. I don't know if anyone needs that many.
It's a lot of podcasts.
But what it does is it gives me this, like, I travel, I teach, and I just grow the circle. And that's really exciting to me, because I met you for 5 minutes at the end of my workshops. And if I didn't have this digitization of my business, that would have been the end of our conversation probably. And I would see you in December. But instead, I get to know your whole story and get to share your whole story with this entire audience, of which I don't know how it happens, but like, my friends won't tune in, but like, I have like listeners in Vietnam for some reason. I have no idea why. And these stories can like kind of trickle out exponentially in the world. So I'm really happy to be able to do that for our industry as well, because wow, you're such a wealth of knowledge, and I didn't know this, and now I do. Yeah,
no, I'm happy to be involved. Happy to be a part of it.
I love it. Thank you for carving out your time. I know you're busy with the 2 kids. My kid is not happy that I've been on the phone this long on the Zoom. I appreciate you.
Well, hopefully it was worth it.
I think so.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find Amanda Ritchie at Grounded in Flight on Instagram, and at Noah Doc on Instagram, as well as Red Flags app. and me, Carrie Wee, you can find at wrapyourheadaroundsilks.com. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We have so much more coming at you, including guests that are in this art world, that are blazing their way through new businesses, and just more banter from us. Thank you for listening. This is The Artist Entrepreneur.